boys. We're cooking with butter now. Ladies, make some noise. That's our first point. That's a go. We got a lady pulling it out. Yeah, Connie Molodek's no stranger to the wheel. She has a lot of fun on the track. Her and her husband campaign this track called the Gopher. The Gallant's tractors have been 1 and 2 sitting in the points. And this is Nick Gallant's right here running in the red. Jefferson, Wisconsin. There is no shortage of horsepower and RPM on that tractor right there. As Nick flexes the muscles and shows you why he is the points leader in the top division. Right in the middle of getting underway of the limited pro stock class. The light pro stocks will be next to the track. Super modified two-wheel drive trucks after that. Pro stock tractors, Hot Farm, and Super Farm. Running over here this evening. All right, our flagmen are ready. We got a green light, green tight. All right, buddy, let her up. Just got to take a while and wind that turbo up. 4.1 inch turbo. It takes a lot of time to get it wound up just right. You got to hit the perfect RPM before he dumps that clutch. Folks, if you want to see how to drive a tractor, they should look that up in the dictionary, because that's how it was done. Perfect. Run it up. Hour later, I'm want to have a good time. Let's go. Pretty good.
Elsing, were the pro stocks last class at Highland this year?
I don't think so. No, I think Super Farms were.
Okay, were pros second to last?
Second to last, yes, I believe.
Okay. Here we go. I found some stuff I wanted to get up here. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We got Ohio, Texas, California, people watching from all over the United States, so jump on here. Well, that was a crappy video that we had there. That's not what I was looking for.
That video is so loud I can't hear what you're saying, Jason.
Oh, was it? Okay. No, I just wanted to just open up the show. Let us know where you're watching from tonight, guys. We got Illinois watching, Eaton, Ohio, Waterford, Wisconsin, Burnett, Texas, New York, Southern California, Seabury, Kentucky, Hereford, down and dirty with the Badger State Pullers. we'll show El Presidente's run from Highland. Did you have a good pass in Highland, Greg?
No,
Okay, so we don't want to show it?
we can. I drove
Okay.
too far to the right side. Drove him to
All
shit.
right, well, here we go. I still love you, Greg. So.
Yeah, love you too. I think that's the only last place I can hear.
Outdoors. Your Hennessy Implement current top 3 in the Pro Stock class, 312.63. Randy Brew, Jewel Times 2, leading the class. 298, Travis Wildman sitting number 2. And 294.8, Robbie Lemke in the class, sexy on 960, sitting number 3. That's your current Hennessy Implement top 3 in the Pro Stock class, 10,000 pound pros for the 10 Pro. The Badger State Tractor Pullers, Greg Elsing on the starting line. Burgesack, Wisconsin, New Holland T8435. It's called the T8 Tomcat. Mr. Greg Elsing, president of the Badger State Tractor Pullers, on the track now. About 5 pro stocks left to go. 312.63, Mark DeVete. This is the one my boys have been waiting for. They love to see that T8 Tomcat roll down the track. He drops the clutch, the headlights turn on, and point towards the sky. All right, New Holland Ford fans, let's hear it. Where you at? There's 3 of you. Love to hear that turbo spur up, don't you?
Welcome, everybody. February 27th, Jason Schultz here with our host, John Stanley, upper right corner, Greg Elsing, president of the Badger State Tractor Pullers. And we're excited to be here. We do this every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, down and dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. If it's happening in the Badger State Truck and Tractor Pulling world, we're talking about it. And tonight, our goal, Dirk Drury was on a little bit ago. We just had the spring meeting this past weekend, and I kind of wanted to just kind of do a recap of the spring meeting. Dirk was going to come on and talk about, from tech and rules inside of it. And I was going to have Greg give us an update just on how schedules are looking, sponsorship, just overall health of the Badger State Tractor Pullers. And of course, John from the announcer's chair, just kind of give us an overview. It's always good to see everybody. I talked to a lot of the guys and the gals that went down there and checked it out. And then I do want to do a shameless plug at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight. We have Let's Grow Pulling, and I have the 3 major associations on tonight. From 8 to 8:20, I got Greg Randall from the NTPA. And then from 8:20 to 8:40, I have Ron Stone from the Outlaws. And then 8:40 to 9 o'clock, I have John Mears from the Pulling League. I don't know if I've ever guys had a show lined up where I have 3 of the major associations in the United States before talking about the 2023 season. So I'm quite excited for that. So, Greg, can you text Dirk and see if he's doing okay? Because I saw him jump on. Or I can, if you want to start talking, Greg, about how the spring meeting went, I can text Dirk or give him a call quick. So
If you want to, I've got to take my phone out of the thing here.
don't do that then. I'm gonna mute myself for a second. You and John start talking about the spring meeting. I'm gonna get a hold of Drury, okay?
Well, we had the spring meeting last Saturday, and generally what we do is kind of go over the schedule and make sure it's going to work for everybody. We had a couple hiccups and stuff, and I think we've got them all ironed out. A couple events that got scheduled on top of something else. I think we're getting it worked out, but that's why we do it, just to make sure it all goes around. I don't want to assign a class somewhere if they have to go. If we're splitting somebody up and that makes 2 poor shows. Even if it's with PI or NTPA or whoever it is, I try to make it so people don't have to choose one place or the other. We'll throw something else in there, but then, we need a few more hooks for a couple of the classes, and a couple of them have too many. That's just the way it is. I don't know how to get around it. I push. I really do try to make it even. A lot of people might not believe me, but I do. I mean, you were there, John, right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Schedule's pretty healthy. How many hooks you got this year? Is it around 30 yet? Pulls? 26.
We Leaf River, Richland Center, and Plymouth have all decided to go a different direction with, I assume, a cheaper show, which is fine. Sometimes we outprice ourselves out of some of the markets, but we picked up Chaupier and Dubuque County Fair this year. So it's about the same. We've had up to 32 and 35 hooks prior to this, but I don't know. It's sometimes, some venues just can't support a Badger State show, with attendance. And everybody in the business understands that.
Yeah, there's never you can't have. Yeah, I mean, you gotta have what, Greg? At least probably 1,000, 1,500 people to pay for a Badger State show, right? You can't ask for pro stocks and 2-wheel drives to come out and pull for nothing. You know what I mean? Right. And the rubber's got to meet the road somewhere. And I know that's just the honest to God truth. And I think a lot of people, Greg and John, think that these promoters are making all this money. You guys, it's really difficult. I mean, without sponsorship and stuff. I mean, John, you've been a promoter. Greg, you're a promoter. I promoted pools. Guys, it's scary, especially if you get a chance of rain. Elsie and I've stood with you so many times in Sauk City and watched that damn weather come in, and it's just like, it just drives you insane. So
I've been working on pretty much all day today. I was working on the budget for Mackville. Roger Baum runs a Mackville show there, and we sent him the price for the show, and he says, you gotta get me some money. It can't be that much, so you try to, you do what you can to make it work.
Yep.
You have to remove something, change something, put some cheaper classes in. They don't want to do that, but and they want their show to be top notch, but you have a budget. There's no sense in these places doing it and not making money. Right. I want everybody that hires us to make money.
Well, and you want repeat business too, because you can't build a big event and just have it a couple years. You know what I mean? You have to,
right?
Like our biggest Badger State pulls, your Darlingtons, just for example, how many years has that been going on, guys? It takes tradition, it takes time.
Yeah, I think it's been there 50 years. Next year's our 50th anniversary, so I think they've been there since the beginning.
Yep.
That's one of the fairs that's been there since the beginning. And a lot of times I too see that, a younger fair board will be more aggressive and do the advertising. And how many, you got your packages we've been selling for you for advertising, and it helps these places, but some of these people don't want to try it. They just think that's an extra $1,000 they shouldn't spend.
Well, I think people are starting to give social media. Hey, Dirk.
Hey.
Some people are starting to understand that social media is important, and hiring us, Beer Money Pulling Team, it's like getting a radio ad, or it's like printing a newspaper ad. We're going to push your event all over social media. And, we're working with some of the biggest promoters in the country. I mean, we're promoting a pull in Florida this weekend and a pull in California next weekend. And the week after that, we're promoting a pull in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, and, obviously Beer Money is very involved with the Badger State social media as well. So we can put a big, we can get your event out to hundreds of thousands of people. Now, granted, Greg, maybe only 10,000 of those people live within an hour of your event. but you could get 200 to 300 more people to come to your event every year, guys. That's an extra $2,000-$3,000, and that allows you to add the pro stocks maybe. Because Greg, the most expensive class to get is what? Pros and two-wheelers and Badger State?
Actually, pros and limited pros are the most expensive.
Okay, and what?
And then two-wheelers and diesel trucks, the 3.6 class or the third and fourth, they're both the same price.
Are you okay sharing? I mean, with the public, what a class cost, or do you want to stay away from that?
I can share it. Pro stocks are $5,000 a class. Limited pros are $3,500. Two-wheel drive trucks are $3,000. Diesel trucks are $3,000. Super farms are $2,750. Light pros are $2,500. Light limiteds are $2,500. The 3.0 diesel truck class is $1,500. It's for our cheaper classes, and hot farms $2,500.
Yep.
I mean, and the insurance is $1,000 and sanctioning is $2,000.
And then you have sleds.
And then you got to hire a sled.
That's what I'm really glad you said that, Greg, because I want to take that from two angles. First of all, it costs $300,000 to $400,000 to build a pro stock today. Okay, to compete at the level you're competing at, and it's a $5,000 purse. If that doesn't show you how much of a hobby this sport still is, okay, because somebody might have heard, $5,000 for a class. Wow, that sounds like a lot, but really it's chicken feed in it. But I'm not picking on it because, okay, let's have pros at $5,000, and then let's say we have hot farms at $2,500. Now we're at $7,500. Oh, I want some diesel trucks, so now I'm at $10,500. I really want that fourth class. Okay, I'm going to add light limiteds. I'm at 10. Now I'm at 12.5. It's $1,000 for insurance, tech fee, 15,000 sled. So now I'm $17,000 to $18,000 into what I would consider a premier Badger State show. You got noise, you got smoke, you got pros. Okay. Now what do I want to charge to get in? If I'm at $1,000 to get in, it's $10 a person. That's $10,000. If I get 1,000 people at 15,000 or at $15, now I'm at break even. That's how cut and tight it is, guys. Or that's how tight it is for these promoters to run these events. Dirk, you can talk about it with Highland. I was even playing Highland videos, Dirk, tonight, sucking up to you, and then you can't.
Wow, thanks, Jason.
Well, one thing too, if a promoter only makes $5,000 an event, and there's a lot of them that only make $5,000, they're happy with that. But then if all of a sudden you want to get $2,000 more towards Badger State, it goes to them profiting probably $3,000. Then is it worth them to do it? They might not.
Well, do you want to take the chance, to make $3,000? I mean, that's what it is. And then, guys, most promoters are buying rain insurance now. You're crazy not to buy rain insurance now. That's another expense. And then you have to go out, and then you're knocking on the same sponsors over and over and over again. And again, we're not whining. If you're a polling fan, we're trying to educate you. I think the more you know, the more engaged you are, and the more you're like, hey, I'm going to go help my local poll. And we don't care if you have a Badger State. There's people watching this show right now from all over the country. Go help your local promoters. If you truly want to grow polling and you want to see more fans in the stands and you want to Badger State fans are beyond the luckiest in the world because they get to see the top level pro stocks in the country. And if you guys didn't prove that at Louisville this year, you went down and competed against the best of best and you put your tractors in the finals. Okay. Right. That's the measuring stick of what it is. There is not a regional association anywhere in the country, that has Grand National Champions Tour level pro stock tractors, super farms, 4.1s. Greg, we talked about this at SHIP. And I know tonight's more about the spring meeting. We're kind of going off on a tangent, but it's about education.
Right.
But Jason, you still need to have your poll get sponsors. I mean, little town of Highland, that's what we do. I mean, with all you got to get a lot of them. And our poll is almost paid for before we open the gate.
And
that's what it takes.
But I don't know.
You go to like Baraboo, Baraboo, Sauk County has built their poll up now. They don't have a lot of sponsors for the poll, and they signed 8 classes and running 2 tracks there, but they've built it up where they've made a good poll and people are coming to it.
They got 2 tracks now. They got a good track now. They got those stupid wagon wheels out of the way, right?
Yep.
And you got Randy Brew from Baraboo helping build the track. And I know like we like to pick on the booster, but he knows what he's doing. And Scott Zerzo, I mean, you have a former sled operator, still a sled operator, build the pulling track. That helps as well. And Sauk County, I mean, it's strong for pulling, but you're right. And those fans, I mean, Greg, I remember 6-7 years ago, the stands were half full. Shit, you got to get there an hour early now to get a seat, Greg. You know,
right now they're lined up down Highway 33 waiting to get in there. They know they have to get in there. You know, it's and then, but it takes time to build it there, and you have to make it fun and affordable.
Yep,
it does. You do. Put on a good show, and you have to keep it moving. But Dirk's right. When you're starting out, you have to get sponsors, and if you can keep them sponsors and cover the show, then you're making some money.
Yeah,
And it's a community effort. One guy can't do it.
You know, and then some of the smaller towns have some of the bigger success. I mean, your Highlands, your Darlingtons, and I don't want to leave anybody out. I know I always end up doing that. It's easy to talk about Dirk right now, but Highlands been hugely successful. I mean, Highlands a town of what, 1,000 people, Dirk?
850.
I mean, that's 850 humans. And
If we can just have a pole without rain, which is something you know all about, Jason.
I make it rain. If Greg, Adam, Adrian, and Greg, if they're having a dry summer, they'll say, Jason, could you please schedule a pool in our hometown so we could have a little bit of rain?
Right.
So
We need
the
rain
farmers reach out to me.
Yep.
But that's fun. So if you're a fan right now, or if you're a promoter, share your stories, share your questions, because this is what these live shows is all about. We want you to peek behind the curtain a little bit, know what's going on. These guys are working hard. You know, there's that new Netflix show, Full Swing, where they're going into they're going into these golfers' lives. And we started doing it, John and Greg, by visiting these shops and showing stuff. We're going to do more of that. We're doing some of it with Beer Money, with Behind Our Helmet series. And, and John and Greg have been awesome and going out and visiting the shops. And if anybody wants to sponsor Down and Dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers, get a hold of Elsing. We're all on board on this, and that'll give them a little extra fuel money to be beating around and going to people's shops and, spending time there and doing some of the shows from there. Tonight, I really wanted to focus back in on the spring meeting. Last week was all about farm show. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, we're talking about that sponsorship. Trip Downing and John Coots and I can't remember who all was standing. They all kicked in a few $100 for us for fuel money for John and I at the meeting. That was great. So I want to thank them guys on here, I guess, for doing that, if they're watching.
Nick Gallett says plug for the Helenville Super Nationals. So that's their hometown pool, well, that and whatchamajig, Jefferson. So
Helenville, there's a small event in the Fireman's Festival, and they pack them right in there from one end to the other, both nights, and they got different organizations both nights. It's neat to see.
And the other like that. Another thing I want to say about sponsorship, guys, if they sponsor you, you better go back there and say, hey, thanks for sponsoring. If you're going to see it in my hometown, now it's Kaiser Chrysler. It used to be Wallach Chevrolet. They sponsor for Badger State in the fall. And I really wanted a GMC truck, but I said, well, I'm going to buy a Chevy from my local guy here because they sponsor us. And I mean, we have to have fans and have to support these people that sponsor it, or they're not going to do it.
Yep.
So just so you know, that's out there, guys. Support the people that are sponsoring this thing you love. You don't necessarily have to buy it from them.
Even if and when I announce, and John does the same thing, I'll say, even if you don't, like to Greg's point, even if you don't spend any money there, if you know the manager or the owner, just thank them. Just thank them for their support, because they allow you to keep a cheaper ticket price.
And I'll say one thing on top of that too about a Badger State show is we've got the best announcers anywhere in the country.
Yep.
You owe me $100, Stranley. No more number 2 out of you.
I know it. Damn it. Greg, we're going to take care of it.
Right.
So we got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that's what happens when you get bright minds like us, together on a show talking about that. But Greg has said to me multiple times behind the scenes, Jason, I want people to know what Badger State's all about. That was Greg's vision of putting the show together. You get your announcer, John, you get Greg, the president, and you do a weekly show, and you talk about pulling. And this show reaches 50,000 people on Facebook and YouTube every week. By the end of the week, it's touched 50,000 timelines. Now, I don't know if people watch it for 4 or 5 minutes or they watch the full hour, but they can also listen to it on iTunes and Spotify. But you know what? It's not hurting anything at all for the sport of truck and tractor pulling and for the Badger State tractor pullers. So at this point, I'd like to kind of circle back now that we have Dirk on the show. Again, the spring meeting was last weekend. What is a spring meeting, Greg? Can you kind of talk about the idea of the spring meeting and why you have one?
Well, the main reason is to get the schedule out. I shouldn't say the main reason. We get the schedule out, but the main reason I feel to do it is we need the people. This is the time we contact our sponsors and, people we need, Kelly and Amy and Emily hopefully got some more contacts for sponsorship and get at it, because we don't go looking for them. When the competitors, the pullers find a sponsor, they work with them girls to make sure that it's taken care of. And I always say it's up to the puller to make sure that sponsor's happy, because I don't want him to say next year I ain't sponsored because you spelled my name wrong. Well, somebody's got to tell us if it's wrong. If we don't know it, everybody has to be involved. We have to involve every member in the club in this, to keep it moving forward. And we've got some very aggressive guys out there getting sponsorship. And that's what made us what we are.
Yep.
We gave $120,000 away in points this year and $130,000 to the Children's Hospital, plus paid out, what runs through the checkbook in a year, $1 million bucks? I don't know. Yeah. So it's pretty impressive numbers when you really start comparing it to other clubs in other states. And anyways, when I talk to the other states, we pay less to our competitors than most states do. If people don't know that.
I didn't know that, Greg. So
yeah. Yep. We're probably the highest paid club in the state, but Wisconsin pays little compared to Ohio and Indiana and them guys. I shouldn't say little. Actually, we pay less. But that's the way it is. And Illinois used to pay really well because the state reimbursed it. But they stopped doing that now.
The state reimbursed them?
Yeah. Back in the day, it's probably been 10 years since they did this. So if the show at Freeport cost $20,000, if they could prove they paid us $20,000, the state gave them 20. But they don't do that anymore. Yep.
That's why Illinois is broke.
Yep.
I think the governor.
Sure.
I think 4 of the last 5 governors are in jail or something. Somebody said.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it's real. I think they have a nice jail, Greg. I mean, it's nice as jail can be, buddy. So is what I've been told. So it's all good.
Right.
I'm just playing some Highland videos in the background with no sound, so we can just keep chatting. Dirk, from a tech perspective and a rules perspective, what came out of the 2023 spring meeting with the Badger State tractor pullers?
Well, I've been doing this tech thing almost 30 years. And that was probably the most informative tech school that I've had in a long time. I mean, John did a very excellent job in keeping us notified of what's going on out there that we have to be looking for. And there's some pretty cool tricks that people are doing with things out there, and you don't know to text something unless you know that there's a problem. So now that we've got the problem addressed, now we can go look for it. And for me anyway, it was a very good tech school, and I come out of there learn a lot.
Yeah. So John Mears came up from Indy, and we're going to have him on our Let's Grow Pulling show in about an hour. He's going to come on and talk about the 2023 and PPL. What does it mean to have, the leader of the Pro Pulling League show up to your spring meeting, Dirk? The validity, I guess, makes it real. I mean, how do I say that properly, Dirk?
I'm glad he's there instead of sending somebody up that you've never seen before.
Yep.
And Greg can feel the same way. We've known John for years and years, and it's we've got a personal friendship with him. We've got a professional relationship with him, and he'll call me up for advice on a rule change. I'll call him up on advice on a rule change. And you work back and forth and you work together and you try to come up with a solution.
My wife just yelled credibility from the other rooms. It gives you credibility, Dirk. That's the word I was looking for when John Mears shows up to your spring meeting. So
Yeah, and all this, I don't want to, talking about Badger State. The last thing I want to do is come off as arrogant, but the Badger State, and I've been told that by many people, that Badger State members don't know how good they have it sometimes when it comes to when they pull into a poll, how things are run, and they get teched. I'll have day members come in there, and you say, well, I got to tech your tractor, and they look at me like they just saw a ghost, and they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, I got to check this and this and this.
Yep.
So
When the time you tried to pull their air shut off and you couldn't pull it,
right.
it was all rusted in. Isn't it?
And they say, well, nobody's pulled that before.
Yeah. Well, don't you want it to work if you're in trouble?
All
yes,
right.
you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
We're teching a tractor mainly what we do is a safety check, but there are other things that, we'll check fuel, we'll check a turbo, we'll check water, we'll check performance, stuff like that. But the main goal is it to make sure that tractor is safe for the driver and the crowd,
And we were
every safety rule on a tractor is because of an accident at one time or another.
Yeah, everyone almost has a rule or a name behind it, like the so-and-so rule. So
we were the first club to I want to say throw out or recognize a set of illegal tires.
Yep.
We were. Nobody else has done it. I don't know if anybody has done it since then.
No, there was a lot of chatter about it, Greg, obviously going around, and you guys, the Badger State guys were the first one to do something about it. I was at a down at Wiggles Pole, Rumble by the Refuge. A set of tires showed up, and they had to trim them down. Like the tire cutter actually had to trim them down there on the thing. Tires, especially in the tractor classes now, guys, tires to me is the biggest hurdle. Not hurdle, but it's the biggest area of opportunity for a puller. We've seen a tractor show up that was 10 feet back, and they put a different set of tires on. Now they're 10 feet out there, and
right.
I got to watch John. I got to watch John measure a set of Mitas at Wildman's. Wildman's went out and took the pro pullers off and the whole shots and went out and put the Mitas on before they pulled. And when that thing came back in broadbent, Epperson from the NTPA and John was right there, from PPL, and they got that tractor jacked up and were rolling the wheels and doing the circumference and the width. They were all over it. They were all over it. So
that's after we showed them how math works. Because I don't know. Should I tell that story or not?
Yeah, I might as well.
It's the Badger State show. It's all good.
It is. Well, they had down in Louisville, they had the rule there. The tires are 17.5 feet around is what the road said. So the guys were measuring them at 17 feet 5 inches. Well, 17.5 feet is 17 feet 6 inches. And they actually had a guy from Wisconsin that already had called back to Mark Korth and was loading up a set of tires to bring down to him because these weren't legal by half an inch or something. And once they got the math right, they were legal. So it's funny. It's fun. And Jim Loburn, of all people, caught him, corrected him, and they wouldn't listen at first until we were adamant that, hey, you're measuring wrong. Because we've done this many times. We were the first ones to do it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you guys over the years at the spring meeting down at Nora's. I've seen new sets of tires in the back of people's pickups, and you guys, Dirk was out there with you, Greg, and you were going through those, throughout the years because it used to just be a Firestone show.
Yeah.
Now we got Parks and Mitas and whole shots and this and that and different things like that. So it's it's all good. Patrick Hack. We woke up Patrick Hack.
Yeah.
Pat says, Dirk, talk just a little bit about tires, turbos, but especially about the blankets not being put on correctly. We've seen a bunch installed wrong at the pull and chip show on it also, and we will be enforcing that this year. So,
well, John was actually standing next to this tractor that was warming up, and he was standing toward the back of the engine. All of a sudden, he felt this breeze on his face, like there's a fan blowing on him. And he looked down, and the blanket was probably 4 inches away from the block. And this guy had this inspection hole cut in his bell housing, and you could look right down and see the flywheel going around. And there's straps on the side of a scatter blanket that you're supposed to run them ahead toward the block and attach them so that will give support to the blanket. And this guy had them tucked in, and, he was told they're there for a reason. You got to attach them to your block. And, that flywheel being exposed is a huge, that'd put us all out of business and overnight.
Yeah, it
That's-
really would.
Something you're gonna have to watch. A lot of guys have cut them straps off already because they never got inspected.
Well, and like I said, this is one of the things I learned at this tech meeting that you need to look for now.
Yeah.
And when you guys hear Dirk say bad for all of us, if somebody, if something comes off a tractor, guys, and goes in the crowd and kills somebody, that's going to be very, very, very bad for pulling. And that's Dirk. That's what he's trying to say, guys.
If we keep pulling after that, it's going to be a lot more expensive for insurance.
Yeah, insurance will be in through the roof. So
Yep. So Badger
And
State's
then-
pretty lucky. We've had a broken arm and a few things here and there, but nothing ever very serious.
Yeah.
Knock
yeah,
on,
this is perfect.
knock on-
Travis Schwaba, your Grand National Diesel Superstock champion, says rules have 3 purposes: safety, to keep competition equal, and to control the cost of class with limits. I mean, that's well said. That's well said. Thank you, Travis,
Very
for
well said.
piping that in there on that. So
What
super
I-
excited for that.
you have limited rules on, say, super farm and stuff. Them are the limits, So now, I thought on component track going to a 4-1, maybe the chassis is the limit. Maybe you can push power out of it. And have but I'm really on the fence with the 8,500 pound, the light pros, because I've seen some of them things ground so thin that I think they wouldn't hold water. Some of the bell housings and stuff. So I don't, I'm not 100% against components, but I think there's classes that need it before other classes.
I think they're the class that needs it the most.
I do too. Some of them tractors are ground pretty thin.
Well, and they're making more ponies than the limited pros are now. Like you said, in 1,000 pounds less. And I talked to a couple of the light pro guys after the show. I actually had a couple of pullers actually text me that want to build a light pro and pull with Badger State, but they don't know if they should start with an ag chassis or if they should just order their component now. And that's really that's why I was texting you, Greg, a little bit on Saturday, but I told you I got it. I talked to a couple of light pro pullers, and they kind of gave me a feel for how they feel the next couple of years are going to go with components in the light pro stock class. And for those of you that are wondering where this is coming from, the Pro Pulling League Silver Series are allowing component chassis in 2023 on the Silver Series. We will see that with some co-sanctioning with our Badger State classes, Macville, Hillsboro, Freeport, and they do have to weigh 200 pounds less. Greg, am I saying that right?
Yep.
Yes.
So you'll see a component run at 8,300 pounds, and then you'll see an ag chassis or a cast ass, as Strandley and I like to call them from the announcer stand. They'll weigh 8,500 pounds still. So
Right. And I talked to John about it too. I said if the components are still walking away with it, you might have to take more away from them. And he thought the same thing. 200 pounds is not more, but that's where they're starting.
Yep.
It's
kind of like when you guys let or when Badger State let Alki tractors into the light limited super stock class. There was some weight I think was taken away, and honest to God, the light limited super stock class has really rebounded with the addition of the alcohol tractors the last couple of years, and really puts on a hell of a good show. And nobody's been dominant, and you guys have done a really good job with that. So
it has been that's been working well. That's a class I'd like to get a few more hooks for too, and you try to, but it's just it is what it is. We have a menu system out there, and I'll push stuff somewhere if I can, but sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
people want what they want.
Stanley, from the announcer's chair, if you will, and thank you for going live at the banquet or at the spring meeting this past week. I was not able to make it down. I had some work stuff I had to take care of. What was the overall feel? What was the overall buzz just from the pullers and, from you as an announcer of the Badger State Tractor Pullers?
I think everybody's excited when spring comes because they know that it's not far away and we'll be pulling again. But I think everybody wants to make sure that they see what the schedule is, kind of get figured out where their classes are, what's new. Like Dirk said, the rules, and they do get clarified, rather well. And there's times that, you're going to have some squabbles over some rules, and that's competition. But I think all in all, everybody knows that at the end of the day, it's for the greater good of your class and or the club. And with that too, with John Mears coming and Badger State, it's better that you have, clear transparency with your rules between the national and the state level. And it makes it so guys can, if they want to go to Missouri and pull and we don't pull, they can go down there or go to Ohio or wherever. And I think that's better for pulling too. Same thing with, if you got a tractor, go help somebody out in another place and become friends with them. Hey, come to my hometown pull and pull with us too, and you see that from time to time. It just, helps out the pulling community in general. The other thing I want to touch on, you guys were talking about earlier, I didn't want to interrupt you, but Dirk saying, the things about how Badger State is done, and as an announcer, Jason, you'll catch this as soon as I say this. When you go to a pull and I announce a pull, you have the Badger State announcers there that have, the sponsors for Badger State. They're all listed out. They're all, very clear to read. There's an announcer book that's got the schedule in. It's got things about, hats, T-shirts, so on and so forth, where to find us on the websites, Facebook, and all the sponsors. And when you go to a poll that has that set up, and then also the poll sponsors are all listed nice and neat, makes your job as an announcer easier. You can fit them in there, sprinkle them in there as you go through the night. But the biggest piece of the puzzle are the girls sitting there next to you, or guys, whoever's operating a computer, feeding you the information for the poll. You got to have that. Without having them there do that, to keep the information flowing with the class, be able to read the class results for, keep the people posted with the top 3, throughout the class, and then your sponsors in there. You need that person there. You can't do it by yourself as an announcer and then try and get the end of the class and take your hands and shoes off and get figured out who's the lead, who won it and who didn't, So it's a big piece to it.
Yep. And that's
Yeah, it's
been,
the people behind the scenes.
yep.
There's a lot. And I don't think a lot of people understand it. We go to a Badger State event, there's 5-6 tech officials behind the scenes. There's always 2 people that run all the business side of it, between entering in people for classes and pit passes and stuff like that. And then we got 2 announcers, depending on the event, and the trailer, get all the stuff out. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's a business. It is a business.
The video,
You got to run it like a business.
yep. The video board's a couple people, and just getting everything out there and getting it going, and having the equipment there to measure. Say you want to do turbos or fuel system, having it all there and set up and ready to go.
So I think, all in all, the spring meeting is very.
Kelly does a great
informational.
job getting that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, Kelly and Amy and Tracy and Emily, all of them that help out. Angie, Kathy Meyer, that bounce around with all of us throughout the summer, and even when we're pulling two pulls in the same night, 2 different locations to pull that off. How many state level organizations do that? And they have the people that we do that are capable of doing that and still put on a good show. That's
Right.
a feat in itself.
Having the people and the iron to do both of them.
Yes. But it's a lot of
How
fun.
many
It's fun.
times? How many times have our polls ever last year went past midnight?
None.
You
None.
know, what can another state organization, I know I'm tooting our horn again, but how many other state organizations or national organizations can say that?
Yep. Get it done. Our pullers are up online, ready to rip. They know they have to be ass in seat when that sled pulls back to get going. You know, we don't have to push them. They're trained. The guys do this.
Right. We ain't pushing nothing.
Yeah.
Yep, until
So the
no,
biggest thing is you want to watch pulling. You don't want to watch them grading the track. So grade
No.
the track, get out of the way. The next one's ready to go. Let's go.
Yep. And
And-
everybody get done so you can visit when you're done. But if it's midnight, nobody's gonna stand around and visit for a minute. You're out of there. You know, most of our pulls I would say are done by 10 o'clock. You know,
Yes.
that's what they want. The fairs, when you sell a show, the fair wants it done at 9:45, 9:30, because people will stop and have a sandwich or let their kids go for a ride, or they'll go to the beer tent and have a beer. And once they're in there, they've got them. But if it's after 10, especially on a weeknight, guys say, as everybody else, well, I'm going home. I got to go to work tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock. It's time to go. That seems to be the witching hour when you're selling a show. You know, so you want to have clock, especially.
Anything after 3.5 hours, and people start fading away.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and to Greg's point, you know, a standalone event like a Highland, like we're watching video from right now, you know, it's not like there's a fair that they have to get out to, but they don't want to go all night either because you lose your crowd. But I've sat with Greg in the Dells, and, you know, these fair boards come in, they're like, hey, we want a 3-hour show because, well, you don't realize, guys, these fairs get 20-30% of the take of the midway. So bring people in to watch the pull, and then they want to back out on that midway, spending money, going on rides and eating $7 pork sandwiches and stuff like that, to Greg's point. So again, I like to share stuff like this because I really want the fans and the pullers to understand some of the stuff behind the scenes, why some of the decisions are made that Greg and the leadership of the Badger State have to make. You know, like, yeah, wow, I really wish we could add another class. Well, we just don't have the budget for it. You know, I've been on those discussions with Greg as well, on what they can or cannot afford to pull stuff like that. And I want to circle back to the tires real quick. Somebody messaged in there about the tires. The taller a tire, the more footprint you're going to have on that track. And that's why we have the 210-inch tire, right? That's a rule, 210, right, Greg?
Right.
Yep.
So if you have a 212 or a 214, that's putting more tread, if you will, more tire on that, and that's why that tire is illegal. And then obviously the same with width on the fire print, and you know, the tire print, stuff like that, it all works out like that. So just wanted to throw that in there.
There's another organization with tires. They're going to inspect them one time and they're going to brand them, and now they're going to say them tires are illegal. So, and we've been through this with certified weight and bullshit like that. What happens now is guys are going to go put a different rim on it. They're going to put a narrower rim on it, make them a little taller, or a wider rim, and it would make them a little wider, whatever you're going to do. But it's not going to be the same when you change the rim width. So you have to inspect them tires when them people show up to compete. I can't inspect it. We cannot inspect a set of tires in May and say you're good for the year, because Joe Blow is going to go home and put a different set of rims on them and change them.
Yep.
You know, so
That's why we don't do clutch numbers.
Yep.
You know, you warp a floater and put a new floater in. Now your clutch paper that you certified means nothing.
I pulled in a big pull in Wisconsin one time, and I didn't have my clutch certified, but I had my old clutch sitting there, and I parked the truck out at the truck stop out of town a little bit and went in and had my clutch inspected. 15 minutes later, I was back with the tractor and was pulling. I had my inspection sheet there. But, you know, I was kind of crooked to do, but it was, you know, I've done it, you know, and I know a lot of people that have done that, you know, but that is what's in my tractor, you know, so that I don't even know if they do that anymore. Hey?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure. Again, down and dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. Today's February 27th. We got John Stranley, Greg Elsing, our hosts every Monday night. Dirk Drury with us tonight as well. Just kind of doing a nice wrap up of the spring meeting. We're going to get back on the road here and try to get into some people's shops or houses, or not necessarily. We don't have to be online, but get some more pullers back on here, as now we head into, we're basically 3 months away from pulling season. I want to know from you, pullers and fans that are watching right now, what pull are you going to next, or what pull are you most excited about here in 2023? Not that you've seen some tentative schedules and stuff like that. If you could just type that into the chat while Greg and John and Dirk are talking like that. So it'd be kind of cool. So
I think if it's a Badger State crew, I'll bet you the benefit pool will be the first one there. That'll be our first event this
Okay.
year. Right now. Yep.
is what are the ballpark dates on that, else?
June 10th, I believe.
Okay.
Yep. And,
So there's nothing down there in that little town in Illinois where Rod Wickman's involved in.
Leaf River, they had
Leaf
50
River?
trucks there last year, so they're going to go with the truck.
Okay.
You know, they don't have to pay anything extra for that, where our show costs quite a bit.
Yep.
What I believe happened, but who knows? But yeah, it's it'll be fun. And then Macville's the week after that one, and that'll be a big one. And then
Hey, Dirk. Terry Benson says, is there any questions about hitches on ag chassis? Because he's building 2 tractors this winter, and he heard something about it, or is it just rumors about hitches on ag chassis? Do you know what he's talking about?
No,
talking about
You
the
talk about the hitch angle?
the hitch angle is 15 degrees.
Yeah, and also it can only be
No more than 15 degrees up, or no more than 15 degrees down.
Okay, yeah, I saw Mears had a tool at Louisville, Dirk. I watched him as they were checking hitch heights. He was setting, I don't remember if it was like if it was phone or something on there, but I've seen you have something. You or Elsing had something on your phone as well that did that degree deal. So
and we learned it's got to be set on the hitch point, not the side of the hitch.
Right.
You know, because people are machining that a little bit different now, of trying to get an advantage.
Terry built
No,
some nice
but the other thing is that I'm gonna probably do more of this summer is get some plumb bobs out, find the center line of the rear axle, and then you measure from the hook point of the drawbar down to the ground, roll the tractor away and measure that point. If it's under 18 inches, you're illegal, because that's a huge advantage.
Moving the drawbar in towards the main axle, shorten
Correct.
it up.
Correct.
And you can only be so long too. I've tried the longer link too, thinking that would work, but it don't. We've all tried different things.
And no step drawbar.
Yep. But there's a lot of, in some of the tractors, there has to be, with a cast ass, you have to have a little bit of a step in it sometimes,
Correct.
just so they get it high enough. But, it's kind of a judgment call there.
Right.
So explaining to the fans about the step drawbar, if your regular square hitch, your regular square hitch would be even all the way through. They basically make them a little thicker, then they mill down half of it that slides in there. So where your hitching point is higher, it'll be like an inch higher on your hitch itself. So that point of it will be up higher, so you can get the height for your 20-inch hitch height or whatever your hitch height is for whatever
Correct.
your class. That's what Dirk's talking about on the step hitch. So it's not 2 different hitches or something. It's one hitch. It's just made thicker, and then they mill it down so that the back part is stepped up higher, basically.
Yep. And then the
There
angle
has-
down part is where you measure your 15 degrees.
I've seen some hitches quite a few years ago, but they were on pro stocks that was actually a piece of drawbar that came out, and then it went up, and then another piece of drawbar went out. Well, I know it sounds stupid, but if you pull on that hard enough, you can stretch that drawbar and it'll give you another half-inch of drawbar. Is the reason for that rule.
Yeah. Had some swing hits.
Coming down the back, Terry's asking.
What's that?
Nothing about the bracing coming down the back, Terry Benson is asking.
I looked at that picture that John had, and the more I look at it, and like you said, you can't tell a whole lot from a picture, but I first looked at it and went, wow, he's got a high hitch point up there. But, if you look at an Engler hitch, you've got steel that's above the hitch that basically bolts onto your old PTO housing. So the picture he had, I even called him today. I said, so what's wrong with that hitch? I mean, he's got adjustment bolts on the bottom of the hitch. And to me, there was nothing wrong with that hitch, because it operates the same as an angler hitch. It just had the two rods that come down from like where the top link was is what made you think. But in all reality, it's to the back of the rear end housing. It doesn't come down at an angle. So you're really not getting any pull down like you are a top link. So that, I know which tractor he's talking about. And I relayed a message to the owner of the tractor, says, don't worry about it. Don't cut it apart. Bring it to the first pull. I'll look at it, and I think it'll be fine. But that's another trouble with pulling too, is rumors get around, and this guy calls this guy calls this guy, and by the time it gets around, it ain't nowhere near true.
Right.
I mean, we never outlawed nothing.
The other part of the hitch too, for the fans to know, it's made out of one piece. It's not welded together. It's a one
Correct.
piece billet piece of steel that's milled out. So you can't just take a piece, weld a piece like you're talking about. It's got to be one made piece, milled out, machined out. So it's not all welded together.
And there's a secondary hitch, a safety hitch. If the first one were to break, it's supposed to catch you. I think they all break when they do happen, if anything happens, but that cannot be part of your primary hitch. It's got to be connected separately.
Yes.
Correct.
Anchored separately. So,
and you also need, and that's the only thing about that hitch that John showed a picture of, and I can't remember, Greg, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if it had a bolt that screwed down on the top of the hitch from keeping the hitch from going up.
I don't know either. I don't remember it.
I don't remember either, but I don't remember seeing if there was a bolt that goes down. Schultz, shut your dog up.
Yeah, I'm trying. I think he knows you're on the show, Dirk, and he doesn't like it.
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely said Dirk Drury. The biggest thing too, the hitch, like you're saying, is so the fans don't understand and get into the nuts and bolts of it. It's got a single mount in the front of the hitch, and then the pin is in there, and then in the back, like you said, there's two like adjustment bolts that adjust it up, so that gets you your height, and then it's got to be locked down, either a top bolt in it or something in it so it doesn't flop or raise up in there at all. It's solid. When you leave after a tech official adjusts your hitch and measures it, that's it. Now the height of it too, you cannot be more than 20 inches, but it's not saying you can't lower it an inch and run a 19-inch drawbar. That's up to you, but can't be any higher than whatever your hitch rule is, but it's still got to be solid. It cannot move around side to side or up and down. It's got to be solid when you're done.
There's a rule too that you cannot, when you're hauling your tractor down the road in your trailer, you cannot chain your tractor down with that hitch. That hitch is only going to get used at the event, and and the guys should inspect them all the time in case bolts are coming loose too.
So the biggest thing there, is bouncing down the road. You stress that hitch out, or the brackets back in there, crack the brackets. And then when you pull, that's when that hitch will come out, and that's the biggest thing. Right. It's only meant for one reason, and that's it.
Yep.
I just want to say one more thing about the spring meeting. I think all of us in this room can agree that what Corey Neff said is so true. He's a mechanic and helps out. I think he's a hired man for our late friend of ours, Gerald Gerlach, and made the comment like I kind of did at the banquet before I was blubbering all over the place, but how much of a family this organization is. And people don't understand it unless you're a part of it. Some of us take it for granted, but when you need something, whether it be a part on your tractor to get on the track, there's 10 guys on the dead run to their hauler getting you fixed up, and they might even be in your class. And if there's, I talked to Craig Ladwig today about the same subject, back in the day with his son that had the cancer and the benefit and the support. And he says, I just can't believe the amount of money that came out of this club to help my kid out. I said the same thing about my transplant last year and the support from the Badger State Pullers. And I had two of them that live more than an hour away from me offered to plant my corn. And if you're not involved in that kind of a family atmosphere, that's why everybody pulls. And when the pull's done, very seldom do you see trailers leaving the pit area with the pull still going on, because everybody wants to talk to each other because they're all friends. And we want to sit down, have a drink, talk about the pull, talk about whatever. And that's the part that makes Badger State, in my mind, is it's your summer family. And, like Corey reiterated, they just couldn't believe the outpouring. And that's what makes me proud to be part of this organization more than our vehicles, our performance of our vehicles, or anything. That's what makes Badger State, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Jason's muted.
Somebody
Jason's
finally
muted.
did it.
I was, my dog was still telling Dirk to shut up, but I didn't want you guys to hear that. So, I want to wrap this up, guys. I need to wrap this up. I'm sorry. This has been an amazing show. Dirk, thank you for your time tonight. Greg or John, do you know the times for the Gerlach Celebration of Life this Saturday and where?
Starts at 1 o'clock, Gerlach Farm.
Okay. And I know we've posted it on Badger State. I'll make sure it gets up there again, but anybody can come and show up and celebrate Gerald.
And John and I are going to be there. And if you have we're going to do a tribute show to Gerald. I haven't talked to Mike yet. I shouldn't say this, but I think he'll be all right with it. I talked to Corey about it, but if you have a funny quote or story to share about Gerald, please come see us. We're going to be there, right, John? And that'll be our next show.
Perfect. Well, guys, thank you for your time tonight. Join us every Monday night here, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for Down and Dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. Thank you, Dirk Jury, for your insight tonight.
No problem.
Thank you for being part of Badger State, John and Greg, as well as being our weekly host. Everybody have a great night. I'm going to head over and start up Let's Grow Pulling. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.